Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna. You know, I don't know if you heard, Pushpa, Devi. Prabhupada was calling for you last night. Oh yeah, Pushpa, where's Pushpa? Seriously, it's true. He should have been here. You would have liked it. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachare Munatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Srimad Paramahansa Parivrajacharyas Tadasasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Shri Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Sankirtan Yagya Ki Shri Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 2, Daksha curses Lord Shiva. Text 30. Brahma cha brahmanams chaiva yad yuyam parinindata setum vidharanam pumsam atta pashandam ashrita brahmasa brahmanams chaiva yadyuyam parinindata setum vidharanam pumsam atapashandam ashrita brahmasa brahmanams chaiva yadyuyam parinindata setum vidharanam pumsam atapashandam ashrita brahmacha brahmanams chaiva yadyuyam parinindata setum vidharanam pumsam atapashandam ashrita Mataji's. Brahma, the Vedas, Cha, and Brahmanan, the Brahmins, Cha, and Eva, certainly, Yat, because, Yuyam, you, Parinindata, blaspheme, Setum, Vedic principles, Vidharanam, holding, Pumsam, of mankind, Atta, therefore, Pashandam, atheism, Ashrita, have taken shelter. Translation. Bhrigu Muni continued, since you blaspheme the Vedas and the Brahmins, who are followers of the Vedic principles, it is understood that you've already taken shelter of the doctrine of atheism. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Bhrigu Muni, in cursing Nandishvara, said that not only would they be degraded as atheists because of this curse, but they had already fallen to the standard of atheism because they had blasphemed the Vedas, which are the source of human civilization. Human civilization is based on the qualitative divisions of social order, namely the intelligent class, the martial class, the productive class, and the laborer class. The Vedas provide the right direction for advancing in spiritual cultivation and economic development and regulating the principle of sense gratification, so that ultimately one may be liberated from material existence, from material contamination, to his real state of spiritual identification, aham brahmasmi. As long as one is in the contamination of material existence, one changes bodies from the aquatics up to the position of Brahma. But the human form of life is the highest perfectional life in the material world. The Vedas give directions by which to elevate oneself in the next life. The Vedas are the mother for such instructions, and the Brahmins, or persons who are in knowledge of the Vedas, are the father. Thus, if one blasphemes the Vedas and Brahmins, naturally one goes down to the status of atheism. The exact word used in Sanskrit is nashtika, which refers to one who does not believe in the Vedas, but manufactures some concocted system of religion. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that the followers of the Buddhist system of religion are Nashtikas. In order to establish his doctrine of non-violence, Lord Buddha flatly refused to believe in the Vedas, and thus later on Shankaracharya stopped this system of religion in India and forced it to go outside India. Here it is stated, Brahma cha Brahmanan. Brahma means the Vedas. Aham Brahmasmi means I'm in full knowledge. The Vedic assertion is that one should think that he is Brahman, for actually he is Brahman. If Brahma, or the Vedic spiritual science, is condemned, and the masters of the spiritual science, the Brahmins, are condemned, then where does human civilization stand? Bhrigu Muni said, it is not due to my cursing that you shall become atheists. You're already situated in the principle of atheism. Therefore, you are condemned. Brahma cha brahmanams chaiva yadyuyam parinindata setum vidharanam pumsam atta pashandam ashrita. Bhrigu Muni continued, since you blaspheme the Vedas and the Brahmins, who are followers of the Vedic principles, it is understood that you've already taken shelter of the doctrine of atheism. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane, not on the floor. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchkalpatarubyas cha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, so Bhrigu Muni, yesterday we talked about Bhrigu Muni, who is Bhrigu Muni to some degree, and here Bhrigu Muni is continuing his very strong words against Nandishvara and the followers of Lord Shiva, and therefore ultimately, in a sense, against Lord Shiva himself. And as we've already mentioned a few times, you can see from this whole pastime or, incident, what happens when devotees get carried away by Maya. One should not underestimate Maya. One should always underestimate one's strength in spiritual life and always remain dependent. This is such a vital part of Krishna consciousness, to always remain dependent and understand, or at least accept, that one is dependent on mercy. And one should always be in the mood that who am I? Who do I think I am? Yes, because actually we're quite insignificant. You may have heard we've said this on numerous occasions. One devotee approached Srila Prabhupada one time in a mood of humility and trying to display humility, and told Srila Prabhupada that, Srila Prabhupada, I am the most fallen. I am the most fallen. And no one's fallen like me. This sort of mood he was really trying to express. And Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada responded that actually you are not the most fallen. You are simply insignificant. Yeah. Because to be the most fallen is, as we've also said many times, it's quite an achievement. You really got to be fallen to be the actual most fallen. Yes. So that's our position. We're not the most anything. We're not the most anything. We're basically just insignificant. We are insignificant with tendencies towards nonsense. So what can you say? It's pretty bad. And reaction like this, of course it's one thing to defend Krishna. If some arguments are made, or someone's trying to belittle Krishna, something like that. So that's one thing. Of course, generally, unless you're able to sort of debate with the person or just defeat the person, best to just get away. Generally speaking, best to just get away. But the only time when it might be appropriate to really make a stand on the basis of some anger is if something like that happens. Krishna is offended, devotees are offended, this type of situation. Otherwise, the materialists, how should we see the materialists and their babblings? We should see them that they're something like children. We all know what children are like. Children get excited, either positively or negatively, very easily. And children become angry, like even Prabhupada explains how Krishna, Mother Yashoda and Krishna, before Krishna started herding the calves, which was shortly after Krishna turned 3, up until that point, Mother Yashoda and Krishna were together 24 hours a day, basically 24 hours a day. And when you're with a person 24 hours a day, you see them at their best, you see them at their worst. Yes. And there's the famous saying, familiarity breeds contempt. And I remember actually back when we were raising funds for building the temple, 1982, end of 82, 83, 84, and the first half of 85. Ramanuj Acharya Prabhu, from down the back there, he and I were literally together 24/7, actually. We were. And, he's very nice. He's a devotee. And he's really dedicated to Srila Prabhupada in his own ways. But there were times when it was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, I don't want to get into it too much. But I think you get the idea. Yeah. Yes. So we really need to be careful in our dealings with devotees, but our dealings with anyone. And we should know, particularly in our dealings with devotees, particularly in our dealings with devotees, or say first of all in our dealings with non-devotees, that we are dealing with children. Spiritually, they're definitely spiritual children. And they might even, in many cases, be pre-children. If you can imagine a pre-children state, embryonic state, or something like that. And if they come up with some stupidity, like children do, then it's not like an adult comes up with some stupidity. A child, you can sort of pat them on the head. It's all right. And I'm sure you've had experience, particularly if you're a mother. The child gets worked up about something. And I remember on a number of occasions actually driving through different parts of South Africa with a household, with a little family group. And one of the children got worked up about something. And Mummy, as we're passing through the countryside, Mummy pointed out, look, go Mata. And suddenly the child was, go Mata, oh. And got all positively excited about go Mata, having been upset about who knows what before. I witnessed, it was an interesting experience. We were in Siberia at a festival somewhere, and there were two children, two little boys, and one was probably, he was walking, maybe he was 2 or 2.5, and the other one was, definitely bigger, maybe 4. The difference between 2 and 4, that's physically quite a difference. And the little one had 2 plastic horses. Not very impressive plastic horses either. They're about that long, just little plastic horses. He had 2. And the bigger boy wanted one. And the little one's mother said, give him one, be nice, give him one. So he gave him one. Then the big boy, stole the other one, just grabbed it out of the little one's hand. And now the big one had 2 horses. And the little one, he had no horses. And the little one, Krishna, became traumatized. Oh, yeah. Screaming. You'd think that he'd been shot or stabbed or just something really dramatic. I remember another time I was flying from Durban to Joburg, I think it was, or Joburg to Durban. And we were sitting in the plane. I was sitting next to the window, and the row in front was a young mother with her little child, who was the same sort of age, like 3 or something. And we're sitting in the plane, and little boy is looking out the window to the plane. There's another plane next door, and it was a red plane. And little boy said to Mummy, I want to go on the red plane. And Mummy said, yeah, Okay, don't worry, we're on this plane. No, but Mummy, I want to go on the red plane. It's okay, next time we'll go on the red plane. Mummy, I want to go on the red plane. And it was like, more or less hysteria. This is what being a child is like. Means the intelligence hasn't started kicking in yet. So that's what the people are like. Here Prabhupada says that the Buddhists, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that the followers of the Buddhist system of religion are Nashtikas. Nashtika. Anyway, it's obviously a very strong word of criticism. Just fallen, degraded people. And when I was reading through this, I remembered just a matter of days ago, this week, maybe yesterday, I saw a headline of an article of how the Buddhists have helped the world situation or something to that effect. And then this morning or last night I saw this. And, Kali Yuga degrades so much that the Nashtikas are considered to be people who've made great contributions to humanity. Well, their contribution is they have degraded, actually. They have degraded humanity by sort of verifying atheism. So here Bhrigu Muni is saying that Nandishvara, who was the main cursor from Lord Shiva's side, Bhrigu Muni is saying that you carry on like this, you'll become atheistic, but actually not only will you become atheistic because of this curse, you already are. Just like it says, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, that anyone who, when they see a devotee, anyone who, when they see a devotee, thinks, oh no, it's him again. Oh, it's her again. Oh no. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, this person is not just an atheist already, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, this person is already a resident of hell. Anyway, take that one and think about it the next time you see a devotee who has irritated you or something like that. Yeah, it's very strong. He's commenting on the verse. How does it begin? Anyway, it finishes such and such narakisa. Narakisa, how does that verse go anyway? It's the one that goes, anyone who thinks that the deity is made of stone, or the Vaishnav should be seen in terms of birth, the spiritual master should be considered an ordinary person, the Shalagram Shila should be considered a rock. I think you've encountered that verse already. So such people Naraki sa. Narak means hell. Naraki sa means he or she is already a resident of hell. How does that verse go? Anyone remember how the verse goes? Anyway, but that's the basic idea. That's the basic idea. Naraki sa, here it is. Boy, it's good having an omniscient computer. Gee whiz. I tell you what, it's really good. Ache Vishnu Shiladir, Guru Shu Naramatir, Vaishnave Jati Buddhir, Vishnu Va Vaishnavanam, Kalimala Matane, Padatirthe Mbu Buddhi, Shri Vishnu Nam Ni Mantre, Sakla Kalusha He, Shabda Samanya Buddhir, Vishnu Sarveshvareshe Tad, Itara Samadir Yasya Va, Naraki Sa. One who thinks the deity in the temple to be made of wood or stone, who thinks of the spiritual master in the disciplic succession as an ordinary man, who thinks the Vaishnav in the Achyuta Gotra to belong to a certain caste or creed, or who thinks of Charanamrita or Ganges water as ordinary water, is taken to be a resident of hell. That's from the Padma Purana. Yeah. So my point was there that one, we need to be able to recognize, it's such an important thing for devotees to be able to recognize the, you could say, attack of Maya, you could just say the encroachment of Maya, because sometimes Maya is just blatant and you become affected, like quite affected quickly by something which is material. Other times, we talk about sometimes, what do we call it? Creeping materialism. That you start accepting some material idea, and then step by step, you accept it more and more until you're into it. And you may not notice how step by step you are accepting it more, and then it comes to the point where, you're kind of fixed like that. And if it's in some sort of materialistic meditation about, like we were saying, a negative type of understanding or perspective on another devotee, or, attraction to the opposite sex within Krishna consciousness, or while you are living within Krishna consciousness, or within the Krishna consciousness movement, shall we say, or, something like that, a fascination with something material while you're meant to be focused in Krishna consciousness, and gradually you sort of just accept it more until you're focused, or, quite focused or regularly focused, something like that. And of course, one of the worst, if not the worst, but definitely one of the worst, is to develop an envious attitude towards another devotee. Sometimes a devotee may feel that another devotee deserves to be, seen in that sort of way, some sort of negative way. And I mean, sometimes they may actually, if a devotee becomes blasphemous or something like that, then it's true. But one should be very, very careful. In Madhurya Kandambani, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, actually we were talking about it in a class we gave on Friday night last week on Madhurya Kandambani, the chapter about Nishta. Nishta, yeah. There are two types of Nishta, two types of steadiness. In Krishna consciousness, you could say, but in a broad sense, there are two types of steadiness, at least in relation to Krishna consciousness. One type of steadiness, or nishta, because this is all to do with the level of nishta, one type of steadiness is actual steadiness in bhakti. You're steady in chanting. You're steady in serving. You're steady in associating in Krishna conscious ways. You're steady like this. This is steadiness, nishta, in bhakti. And the second type of steadiness is steadiness in like qualities, you could say characteristics, or things, just things which are conducive to bhakti. They're not necessarily in and of themselves just bhakti, but they help. They help with bhakti, like tolerance, mercy, kindness, poeticness. Actually, it's simply the 26 qualities of a devotee. Yeah. And in those 26 qualities of a devotee, the main one is Krishna Akarshanam. Krishna Akarshanam means attachment to Krishna. And the others like being humble, being tolerant, and being gentle, being kind, and these types of things. They are all the term, what's the term? Marginal qualities. They're not necessarily like actual qualities of bhakti, just simply in and of themselves, because you find people in material life. You may sometimes find some people in material life who are more tolerant than you, but they're definitely not devotees. And they're more poetic, they're more gentle, and they may even be more humble apparently than you, but they're definitely not devotees. So just the presence of those qualities simply in and of themselves, but not necessarily with a clear connection with Krishna consciousness, so they're marginal. Devotees generally have them, but there's not a guarantee. And sometimes, so Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that sometimes you may find a devotee who's very attached to Krishna, but the devotee is very intolerant. The devotee is quite proud. The devotee may even be violent, physically violent, and what to speak of being poetic. Sometimes you find a devotee who swears using bad language. I mean, these things you've seen, right? You see it? It happens. But he or she is really attached to Krishna. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says a couple of things about such a situation. First thing he says is, you may see a devotee like that. They're attached to Krishna, but they may even have quite prominently some of these unpleasant sort of personality traits or whatever. And therefore you may think that it's okay to criticize him or her. I mean, don't get so many female devotees swearing. But you get some. Anyway. So you may think that it's okay because the devotee is, not clean, for example, and so on and so on and so on. You may think this justifies criticizing the devotee. But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, no, definitely not. You must be respectful. Of course, you could try to help them by preaching to them. You'd have to be careful if they're really, sort of prone to being angry. But you could try. But to criticize them is not right. And he says, even such a devotee is better than a person who is not a devotee, who has all, not the quality of being attached to Krishna, but all the others, poetic, gentle, merciful, kind, generous, etc., etc. Very nicely. But the devotee, even that, kind of unusual devotee, is much better situated and much more worthy of appreciation and even praise than that, very cultured non-devotee. So, but anyway, here in terms of this whole situation, we must be on the lookout. We don't want to be, we're meant to be Krishna conscious. We're meant to be thinking of Krishna and not just focused on ourselves. I, me, and mine. Yeah. But definitely from time to time we need to do a little, what would you call it? A little check. A little check. How am I doing? Every so often. How am I doing? And just examine ourselves a little bit in terms of, am I Krishna conscious, or is Maya encroaching in some way or another? And particularly if there's some attack, something sort of blatantly comes upon you as a devotee, which, inevitably will happen from time to time, then it's so important to recognize, I am being attacked by Maya. I need to take some special action here. And not just take the attitude that, it'll pass, all things must pass, and I'll be okay, because I'm Krishna conscious. You know me, I've been Krishna conscious for 5 years, so, it's all right. It's not all right. It's not all right. So we need to be mindful like that. And just do a little reality check is the term. Little reality check from time to time. And of course, when there's some blatant attack of Maya, that's another thing. But definitely, maybe on a daily basis, every few days, something. We need to do a little check, just a little check. How am I doing? And be ready to make some adjustments. And therefore it's always good to have at least one devotee who knows you and understands you and who's not afraid to stick his or her neck out and actually tell you, hey, listen, something's wrong here. And not be too concerned. Are you going to get upset if you're told that you may have some fault? This is association. This is real Krishna conscious association. I mean, a really important part. Not just like Hari Bol. That's also wonderful. But the association of, how are you doing? And having an honest discussion about how one is doing is a very important part of Krishna consciousness. And if you're cursing people or something, even mildly, please know you got a problem. And some transcendental surgery is required. Hare Krishna. Any comment? Or yes, Raghunath Prabhu. This thing is not working, is it? Or I don't know, is the light on? Anyway.
Maharaj, what if you genuinely want to correct somebody and there's no malice in that correction, and the person get upset? Do the devotee get a reaction for that? Or?
It's possible. There's a famous story which not so many devotees know about, of Rupa Goswami and the elderly devotee. You know that story. And Rupa Goswami, of course, there was no offense. But the elderly devotee felt offended. So, there may... And Rupa Goswami, there was some influence. So the thing is, correcting fault in other devotees, that's just about one of the most, refined sciences or refined aspects of the science of Krishna consciousness. And if you really, malice is one thing, but another thing is just, like the appropriateness of what you say and the intelligence of, the instruction you try to give. And if you really are qualified, then the devotee will not become angry. Actually, they'll become appreciative. Thank you for helping me, because that's what you're actually trying to do. But, due to our conditioning and just our lack of intelligence and experience in Krishna consciousness, we, particularly in such a situation, we may try to do something as best as we think we know how to do, but actually it's not good enough. And it's not that we're thinking that I'm going to get him and, disturb him or something. But with more intelligence, with more experience, with prayer for intelligence, then by Krishna's grace, like Srinivasacharya says about the 6 Goswamis, Dira adira jana priyo priyakaro. They were dear. Of course they were dear to the devotees. I mean, that's relatively easy. But to the non-devotees, the not just non-devotees, but the ruffians, the sort of the hard cases, they were dear to them. So, but it takes time and it takes experience. And experience means you have to keep trying, even though sometimes it won't work. And you'll think, gosh, why did he react in that way? But in due course, you'll be able to do it. As you know, Giriraj Maharaj's story with his parents, I think it was. His parents were anti, and then they met Prabhupada, and at the end, they were pro-Krishna consciousness. If I remember correctly, it was Giriraj Maharaj told Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, you're so wonderful. You love everybody. No, everybody loves you. Everybody loves you. And Prabhupada said, yes, that's because I love everybody. So it takes progress in Krishna consciousness, but it takes intelligence and experience en route. And when it's your duty, or one of your duties, to correct people, you got to try. But as you try, as you're in the act of trying, you got to pray. You really got to. And you'll see gradually it works better.
Another question, Maharaj. At some points, devotees they just want to talk, material things, and they want some association. And we try to avoid such association. Is that okay? Because the devotee may also get upset about that we're trying to avoid him.
Yeah, sure. Well, that happens because some devotees are like that. They're sort of in between Krishna consciousness and material life. So, ideally you've got to become more expert in taking a mundane subject matter and turning it to Krishna consciousness. That's really the essence of it. Prabhupada in 1973, when we first got the manna and Prabhupada stayed, and Shamsundar arranged for all these famous people to meet with him. So one of them was really improbable character, Graham Hill. Have you heard of Graham Hill? I'm sure you haven't. Grand Prix driver, racing car driver from years ago. For some reason, Shamsundar invited him and he came. And Prabhupada initially talked with him about motor cars and then switched it and preached to him.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Any other comment or question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. But I know it's bad to judge somebody. What in the situation of, say, you compel to judge, but it's just for analogy purpose, when you're confronted by a Brahman whose thread has turned black from dirt, and he wants to tutor you, how do you accept that?
He wants to what to you?
Say maybe tutor you.
Oh, tutor you. I see. Yeah. Well, when this idea of not being judgmental is there, actually the idea is that we shouldn't be critical. That's the point. But in Krishna consciousness, we have to consider who we're associating with in order to associate appropriately. Because even just amongst the devotees, not all devotees are on the same level. Some are junior, some are I mean, to you. Some are, more or less on an equal level, and some are senior. And if you start instructing the seniors and taking instruction from the juniors, you got a recipe for serious problems. Yeah. So but it's not a matter of being judgmental. That's not a matter of being judgmental. That's just a matter of understanding reality, isn't it? Who is this person actually? And so what would be the appropriate way of associating? So it's a different thing. But yeah, if we're quick to, well, Chanaka Pandit said, and Srila Prabhupada repeated it on a number of occasions, you can take gold from a dirty place, you can accept a qualified girl from a low family or something like that, and then there's a third one. I can't remember what it is, but there's a third one. Kind of improbable situations, but you can accept, like gold from a dirty place. Normally, if it's a dirty place, you're not going to accept anything from a dirty place. So when it comes to devotees wanting to tutor you, I mean, it depends. If they want to tutor you every day or regularly, or if they just want to give you some advice. If they want to give you some advice, and if they're senior to you, if I was you, I would take it. And just, but not take it like, yes, this is it. My life will be based on this. But yes, in deference to the person's seniority, okay. If he wants to help me, then I should be thankful. But at the same time, bear in mind, it seems that possibly I might not need to take it too seriously. How does that sound?
That's, I do understand what you're saying. Thanks very much. Also, I'd like to say, Prabhupada has given us a little bit more than that situation. Like, devotee who lives next door to me, I can freely ask him any advice at any time. So, makes up for everything.
Okay. Who are you living next to? Okay, yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Krishna's mercy. Yeah. Okay, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.